Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Today I want to tell you a story from my past that I am reminded of quite frequently recently. It is a story from a time when I was a young teenager and when I had just started to go to a different school than previously. And in those days I still had more trust in people that I considered to be my friends. I come from a rural working class family, and I think it is safe to say that I still had this original social trust that Germans normally have. We call it Urvertrauen. Now, I cannot say that we didn't lock our doors at night when I was growing up, but still, there was still more trust between neighbors and people than nowadays. This is a story about a very uncomfortable situation for me, but also a situation from which I learned a lot actually. It was one of my early red pills about people. Most of my other classmates at that time also haven't known each other for a long time. It was our first year at a new school. So in our first year together, we went on a hiking trip. And in the evening, a group of young students then sat together around a table and they played a friendly game of poker. Now, this game was not about a lot of money, of course. We played for a couple of pennies, so in German Pfennige. At that time, the euro didn't exist yet, of course, so instead of cents, we had pennies. So we basically paid for money, but not a lot. So nobody of us was really hurt by a loss of a couple of pennies. The loss or gain of money was more or less symbolic. So it just so happens that two of the students in that group knew each other from before, and they were 1 year older than the rest of us because they repeated a year. Those two guys had a rather difficult relationship, I should say. They were friends, yes, but they were very different in their attitudes and in their characters. One of them was a rather conservative guy and the other one was a little bit of a punk. I considered both of these people to be my friends. We had met before independently and we actually got along very well. Now, as we played round after round this evening, it was rather obvious that the more left-wing guy of them, the punk dude, he actually won a lot of games, significantly more than the rest of us. Now, he said that he always plays with his dad and he just has more experience in poker. He didn't win every round, of course, but as I said, he won significantly more often than the rest of us. And that is when the other guy actually became really suspicious. And after every game that the punk dude won, he became actually angrier and angrier and started accusing him of cheating. He wanted to convince us that the other guy is cheating. He didn't have any evidence for that, however. He just said that he knows him and that he is very sure that he is somehow cheating. I watched this for a while, but then I felt that I had to say something because it was really uncomfortable for me to see both of my friends fighting and one of them accusing the other guy of very dishonest behavior actually that I thought would be unthinkable. So I tried to talk to them and I said that, look, I don't believe that he is cheating. I don't think that he would do such a thing and that I want to see some evidence actually. I'm not ready to believe something like that without any evidence. That made me look like the rational guy, of course. However, my conservative friend became more and more angry. After 20 minutes or something like that of further escalation and loud yelling, they finally caught the punk guy actually cheating. It turned out that he had some cards hidden in his sleeve and apparently he practiced that move in the previous weeks. And at that moment, I felt a little bit ashamed and really stupid for defending him all this time. When he was caught, he was just laughing and mocking us how long it took us to actually catch him when it was so obvious, apparently. My conservative friend, of course, said, "I warned you, I told you so, you should have believed me from the beginning." Only a little later I realized that on top of the immediate feelings I had, which was that I felt stupid of course and a little bit ashamed, the much more heavy emotion was that I felt really disappointed in what my friend had done. The former me just couldn't understand how somebody who calls someone else a friend can actually do something like that to him. And I know there was no real damage that was done. It wasn't a lot of money. And of course, he gave that back to us. But somehow, I really felt betrayed by him and disappointed in him as a friend. And it just occurred to me then, when I reflected a little more on that situation, that our families and our cultures, let's say, I didn't call it like that back then, but that is what it is, must be really, really different. Something that I considered to be absolutely dishonest and disgusting behavior, to him was just a joke. The enjoyment from lying to people and pranking them in that way was very foreign to me. And I have to admit, it still is kind of. Now, I don't want to act as a kitchen psychologist right now, and I have no idea whether or not you have to look for the reasons in genetics or in early childhood development or mother-son relationships or whatever. I don't really know, and in the end, I don't really care. But what I definitely learned that day is how different some people can be when it comes to how they behave towards their friends, what they consider to be just a joke, or what is not such a big deal to them apparently. So once again, remember, I was really, really young at that time. But this is one of the key moments that I always am reminded of when I ask myself, can you trust some person or can you trust some information? I'm always reminded of how I felt in that very situation when I found out that my friend was actually cheating all the time that night we played poker together. I'm still a person that doesn't blindly believe stuff. I still ask for evidence. But I think I became less stubborn and less trusting in defending people when they are accused of cheating. I still won't join the chorus of accusing someone without evidence, but I also won't defend them necessarily. And this is actually quite a pity, I think, because among friends or allies or whatever you want to call it, in my perfect world, in my perfect universe, one would actually defend people that are accused without evidence. However, whenever my reflexes, my natural impulses kick in, I think back of that night and how stupid I felt when my friend was actually lying to us while I was actually standing up and I defended him against these, from my perspective, baseless accusations. Of course, you can imagine what makes me think back to that night in recent weeks. I have made many videos recently where I talked about official numbers and I looked at statistics and at models. And of course, in the end, I also don't know if everything is just a hoax, if everything is not made up. But I came to the conclusion that if this stuff is faked, the cabal that would be necessary in order to manufacture all these numbers in all these countries all around the world would have to be really, really big, without any whistleblowers in all of these countries. And even though I really don't know what is right and what is wrong and what you can trust and what is manipulated, I still hold the opinion that I want to see evidence when somebody proposes a concerted effort by some organizations to manipulate official numbers and fool the populations in many, many countries. So these two guys actually remained being my friends, even though they still had a very difficult relationship with each other because they were just so fundamentally different. I haven't seen them anymore since my undergrad years. I just know that one of them is a successful guy right now, and the cheating punk dude is no longer with us today. He decided to put an end to his biological existence, but that is maybe a different story. So that was one of my big red pill moments when it comes to interpersonal relationships with friends in this case. And my lessons included the reality that not everybody is the way people are in my family or in my village of origin. Some people have motivations or desires that are very, very different from mine, and I will probably not even know them at any moment, so these motivations are hidden. In this example from my story that I told you, the guy's motivation was just that he got some pleasure out of pranking or cheating his friends. something that was completely foreign to me at that time. So this very moment when the fraud was revealed is one of the key moments that have somewhat shaped my behavior or my thinking, which means that whenever I come in a situation that is somewhat reminiscent of that situation back then, I immediately think back of that night and the way his betrayal made me feel. So today's video was a little bit different in style than what I usually upload. Maybe this story reminds you of one of the key moments that shaped your behavior or your thinking, or maybe you have also some memories that sometimes instantaneously flash up in your mind when you are triggered by a situation that is somewhat like the one you experienced in the past. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. I want to thank all my subscribers and my great supporters. If you find my work valuable or entertaining, please like, share and subscribe, and consider making a donation via PayPal or supporting me via Patreon or Subscribestar. Have a great weekend and stay tuned for more videos to come. Servus, Kameraden!